I was born in the lovely city of Spokane in late October 1909. My folks had recently taken up residence there. My father worked for the city of Spokane. They had left Sweden early that spring and had stopped in Minnesota intending to stay there. But my father didn't like Minnesota. Too hot and too many mosquitoes, so they journeyed westward to Spokane. After spending a year in Spokane and 2 years in Bonners Ferry, Idaho, on a farm, my folks moved out to southern Alberta, where Dad had obtained land. Dad was tired of stumps and rocks and had yearned to take up farming on the prairie where there were only a few rocks to pick before plowing. I enjoyed my childhood there farm. Most of our neighbors were Norwegians, so we fitted in well. Shortly after we came to Alberta, my aunt and uncle from Sweden came over, along with another couple. They obtained land nearby, and as time went on, we had many cousins to play with, besides two of my own brothers and two sisters. My dad was a wheat farmer. Sometimes the crops were good, and sometimes we would have a dry year when we had to scrimp to get along. My dad made money in the winter trapping coyotes, of which there were many in those days. I finished 9th grade education in the local school, and then went on to Canadian Junior College at Lacombe, Alberta, where I finished my high school and college education. After completion of college, I went to the College of Medical Evangelists of Loma Linda, California for my medical training, which I completed in 1934. The medical school is a Seventh-day Adventist school. It is now known as Loma Linda University, offering degrees in medicine, dentistry, nursing, and many health-related professional degrees. It is a school of which I am justly proud. It has a very high reputation, both locally and nationwide. At California, 1934, I was rather happy to do so. They were having a polio epidemic in Southern California at the time, and people were very much concerned. For some years to come, we would have this problem. We should all thank the good Lord for Salk vaccine, and later the oral polio vaccine. This was a scourge which I am glad we don't have anymore. Leave of sunny Southern California, I traveled eastward with two of my classmates and their wives. We stopped at Sequoia National Park. I was greatly impressed as I stood there beside a great sequoia with a base approximately 20 feet in diameter and reaching to a height of 360 feet or more. To think of that, this probably started growing at the time of Moses. Fantastic. Another thing I remember about this journey was after sleeping for an hour or two, I opened my eyes and really saw luscious green grass for the first time. I rubbed my eyes. I could hardly believe it was so green. This was in Iowa. Arriving in Chicago, we parted. They going on east and I going to Milwaukee. I had applied for a two-year internship at Columbia Hospital in Milwaukee. I was to spend 15 months there, 6 months at Milwaukee Children's Hospital, and 3 months at Milwaukee Isolation Hospital. I enjoyed my internship and stayed in Milwaukee. I met my future wife there, and we were married in September 1935. It was a big thing to go to Milwaukee in those days, so Ellen and I journeyed there, and in half an hour or less, the deed was done. The Justice of the Peace charged $5, the doctor charged $5, and the chauffeur and also witness charged $5. So for $15 we were hitched, a real bargain. After we were married, Evelyn took ill with what proved to be a depression. We both decided it was best for her to go to Minneapolis and stay with her folks. I visited her 2 or 3 times while I finished my internship. Did locum tenens in Oxford, Junction City, and finally at Greenwood for Dr. Olson. While there, I became acquainted with Malin Hamill, the band director for Greenwood, Withee, Owen, Loyal, and Pittsville schools. He suggested I go to Withee, and I kind of liked the idea after checking out the town. I left Greenwood for Minneapolis where I vacationed for a while, and then Evelyn and I came back to Withee about the 20th of October. We stayed at Ben Crum's until we got on our furniture a week later and moved into the Jelling house, which finally became the James Haddlestead home, as at the present. I had chosen to start my practice in the rear of the Withee drugstore, where Dr. Nielsen had his offices while in practice. I had a small waiting room an office, a treatment room, and a dark room for developing x-rays. I officially started my practice November the 1st, 1936. I didn't make too much money the first year, but Evelyn and I were very happy. We were still in the Depression. People paid me with carefully folded up $1 bills. I remember when times got better, they paid me with 10s and $20 bills. Evelyn was a wonderful cook, and we had great meals. We had lamb chops often the first year. I never ate so well. It was during this first year that I had my, shall I say, famous snow baby. I was called to the home of Mrs. Chester Gillard, 2 miles south of Longwood. A blizzard was going on, but a milkman with his snowplow had just gone through, so I had no trouble getting there. I was there about 9 o'clock in the morning. She was in labor with her first child. It wore on, I became concerned that I might need some help and decided to take the mother to hospital in Owen. In spite of some snow during the day, I thought we possibly could get through because people had been going back and forth. Found out differently after we got started. Soon getting stuck. Jackson with his milk truck met us, and he elected to help us. It's Justin McCarthy elected to pull us with his milk truck. He'd get stuck from time to time, and he'd back up and jerk the car forward time after time. As far as the Charlie Haas residence north of Longwood, there I could see that mother was soon to have her baby, so I told Mr. Jackson to stop the car, and I had Justin McCarthy come into the car and give chloroform under my direction to deliver a 10-pound baby boy. Charlie Haas saw our predicament, and they invited us to stay overnight. The mother, the baby, and myself. My wife, and told her I wouldn't be home that night, and I was staying in the country, and that I had just delivered a baby boy. R.W. Hare, then a Clark County police officer, came to the home and took a picture of the three of us, the newborn baby, mother, and myself. Appeared in the Milwaukee Journal on February the 22nd, 1937, and became known as the Snow Baby Story. In my practice, I would deliver over 1,500 babies, many of these in the homes. I delivered many babies for $30, $40, or $50 per delivery, which today seems like chicken feed, but in those days seemed adequate. For some of these, I was never able to collect even this small fee. My practice continued to increase. Harold Crum, who ran the drugstore, and myself got along well, and we became good friends. In the fall of 1937, on September the 7th, our first child, a daughter, Joanne, was born. In December 1940, Barbara became another family member, and later on in July 1943, we had a baby boy, Robert. We were a very happy family, and then troubles began. In May 1944, my brother-in-law was killed, and this brought on a depression for Evelyn. She was in and out of hospitals for the next 3 or 4 years. I was able to get competent help and was able to carry on my practice. I tried to make life as happy as possible for my children and myself. This I think I accomplished. I sincerely want to thank those women who helped us in those days. Without their help, I don't know how we could have carried on. In my first year or two of practice, I sometimes felt as though I wasn't doing enough for my patients. I would go out and see somebody with the flu. I would find that he did not have pneumonia, but what else could I do but give him something for pain and fever and cough, and provide plenty of fluids and bed rest. In the winter 1936-38, I saved the life of a young Amish boy who had a severe case of pneumonia and was very ill with the new sulfa drug. I had 10 pneumonia patients that year amongst the Amish, and the sulfa did the trick in each case. I would have to continue using sulfa until the end of the war, when we were able to get penicillin. And was that a wonder drug? Pneumonias responded beautifully. I remember a man I saw one afternoon with lobar pneumonia and a temperature of 104, very ill. I gave him a shot of penicillin and told him to go home and go to bed, and that I would see him at noon the next day. Believe it or not, when I got there, he was just coming out of the field. He had been plowing all morning. I naturally bawled him out and told him he had to, had to lay around for 2 or 3 days till he got over his pneumonia. I gave him another penicillin shot. He had no fever, but he still had pneumonia, but it was breaking up fast. Well, in those days, early days, was truly a wonder drug. Today we don't worry about scarlet fever like we did. We give a child a long-acting penicillin shot, and the rash disappears with a sore throat in a day or two. Think, no more quarantine or several weeks loss of school or middle ear infections. Then we have gotten many more wonder drugs. It is hard to appreciate all we have today compared to those days. Wonders never cease. Today doctors do many unheard of things like open heart surgery, delicate brain surgery, and some people who have diseases that used to be totally fatal are healed. Cancer is gradually being overcome, but there is still much to do in this field. And we have so many new drugs. It is a pleasure to use them, and with great gratifying results, both for my patients and myself. No wonder I am in no particular hurry to lay down the gauntlet and sit in a rocking chair. In 1951, in February, Sandra was born. We used to call her our ugly duckling. She didn't look so good the first few months, no hair. But she grew up to be a very lively, intelligent, and outgoing young lady with many friends. I was working for 2 attorneys in Newport, Oregon. She is a community planner, very happy with her job. She was married and has a 7-year-old son, a smart little fellow, likes to read the encyclopedia. Years later, in April 1953, Linda was born. She's a competent nurse working in the delivery room of a hospital in Pocatello, Idaho, where they average 160 babies per month. Joanne, our oldest, lives in Melbourne, Australia, where she works for the educational department in the vocational training field. We all wish she lived closer. We miss her so much. Barbara is married and has 2 children, a boy and a girl, both very active in sports. Michael, age 13, is avidly training in swimming, looking forward to the Olympics someday. Teaches classes in the local college. She teaches foreigners how to speak English. Fully 1/2 of her students go on to college. She's a very enthusiastic teacher and naturally loves her work. Robert is married and has 2 children. He works for the Boeing company in Seattle in the computer division. He is doing very well. His wife and he both love the Northwest and like to go on outings. It's a lovely place for it. My dear wife, Evelyn, continued to have her ups and downs from 1955 on. She was hospitalized on a few occasions, but managed to stay home most of the time. We all loved her, and even though it was difficult on occasions, we managed to have as near normal a family life as possible. I look back upon many happy occasions during those years. As the children grew up, went away to college, some married, and found their nicks in society. It was an awful blow to us when Evelyn accidentally choked to death on a piece of meat while alone in the summer of 1972. We all sorrowed for her, but life has to go on. I put my heart and soul into my work, which was a great help to me. My children all carried on surprisingly well. Thank the good Lord, we are still a happy, loving family. The children all enjoy coming home, and I enjoy visiting them as often as I can. My religious life has sustained me a great deal. I derive a great deal of comfort from the study of God's Word and going to church, as I'm sure we all do. I have been a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church most of my life, and have been an active member of my local church. I have enjoyed worshiping with the church members at Withee. They have all been a loving Christian group and have been a source of strength to all of us. After high school, we sent all our children to Andrews University at Bering Springs, Michigan, which is a Seventh-day Adventist school. I'm sure that has been a great influence for good in their lives. Fall of 1954, I was asked by Calvin Mills to become medical director of what was then Clark County Hospital. I have enjoyed my work there. It has been very challenging. Both Calvin and his son Harlan have been very friendly and pleasant to work with. All the personnel also are very friendly and nice to work with, making for a very congenial atmosphere. I have many good friends amongst them. It has been a good training ground for me. I have gained a great deal of experience, clinical experience rather, in dealing with the patients. I have learned things there that I have applied in my practice. I am happy to say that I have learned a little something about psychiatry, which helps me in my work also. During my nearly 28 years as medical director, I have witnessed a tremendous change in that institution. During my early years, it seemed like that all that came there were destined to stay there. Now with all the various therapies available, such as psychiatrists twice weekly, a psychologist, social workers, 30 or more nurses instead of only one, at that time in the person of Mrs. Edna Hill, who is retiring this year after 40 years of devoted service, so therapists, physical therapists, etc., there's a marked change. Many people are now able to leave, and if not that, at least they live happier, more meaningful lives. Incidentally, the health care center is now accredited by the Joint Commission on Hospitals, which is the best there is. This means we have to be on our toes. My colleagues, Dr. Hopkins and Wallmeyer, have now joined the staff to relieve the workload, which is much appreciated. 30 years ago, I moved my office to the present location as I needed more space and room for office help. Olga Sigilnik was with me 2 years. Sally Hucker was with me for 15 years. Nina Durbin worked 8 years. Mrs. Dooms and Mrs. Wally Petson and Rita Lang each worked 2 years. They all served me well. My present staff is Dorothy Waller, 10 years, and Lorraine Porat, 8 years. They are a very pleasant and efficient pair and makes the office run smoothly, for which I am grateful. I have enjoyed my practice in the community. I have a great many wonderful patients, some of whom I have had as patients since my early days of practice. I am a member of the American Medical Association, the Wisconsin State Medical Society, and the Clark County Medical Society, and have been during all my years in practice. I am a member of the Victor Memorial Hospital medical staff and the Memorial Hospital of Taylor County medical staff and the courtesy staff of St. Joseph's Hospital in Marshfield. A member of the Owen Kiwanis for several years and have been a member of the Withee Lions since their chartering in 1954. I worked a great deal with Drs. Ovgaard and Mathig as assistant at surgery during the years and have a high regard for both of these colleagues. We did a lot of work, and I think very good work. We had excellent results as a rule. In recent years, I worked with Dr. Salas a lot, and also Dr. Roberta Cossing and Dr. Connolly. I've had very friendly relationships with these doctors at the Victor Memorial Hospital. I've enjoyed being on the staff. The hospital has grown a great deal from what it was in 1937 when I started there. We now have many more members on the staff, and a board surgeon is going to join the staff in October. He should be a great asset to the hospital and to the community. I also wish to say that I have a high regard for the Marshfield Clinic and its staff and St. Joseph's Hospital. They have been most helpful with referrals I have made. They are always very considerate and helpful, and when I need them, they are there to help. We are fortunate to have the Marshfield Clinic and St. Joseph's Hospital just a short distance away. In 1976, my two brothers and I went to Europe. We spent a couple of days in London, a few days in Paris, and then went on to Sweden. It was a great experience. We visited relatives in Sweden. We have 8 double cousins. One of the girls looked just like one of my sisters. It was nice seeing all the relatives. I was sorry I couldn't speak Swedish very well, but we managed. I would love to see them again someday. London was fascinating. They really keep the old buildings looking like new. We admired some buildings 300 or 400 years old. A building 900 years old, built by William the Conqueror, still looks very good. This is a museum for all manner of old armor. Saw the Tower of London and the big broad axe used for decapitation, which is fully 18 to 20 inches wide. Saw Westminster Abbey. Enjoyed Paris very much. We admire their underground transit system. The trains run like clockwork. And the Palace of Versailles. Every room has beautiful paintings on all the walls and ceilings. On our way to Sweden, we passed over the battlefields of World War I and II, It was so tranquil, no sign of all the carnage that had taken place. First were busy harvesting their wheat and oats. The fields and farms were lovely. Sweden was lovely. On our 400-mile or kilometer trip north and west from Stockholm to up near the Norwegian border where our relatives lived, we saw nothing but trees. Sweden is really in the timber business. It takes 75 years to grow a forest with maybe the fertilization, which is done by flames, and 100 years without it. Norway was very scenic. Spent a day in Oslo. Wonderful food. In Copenhagen, we were at the Tivoli Gardens on a Saturday night. It was truly a delightful place. It was full of people. They had slot machines all over the place, and all were her daughters and myself went to Australia to visit Joanna. We spent 3 weeks there. It was so very nice. Joanna made everything so pleasant for us. Many of the sights, especially enjoy seeing the penguins that inhabit the island near Melbourne. They are islands so cute. They leave in the morning and come back at the dusk. We were there when they came in. They lined up on the shore and marched right past us to the nest of their young. Spent a few days in Sydney. Took in a show at the famous Sydney Opera House, which cost $102 million to build. And also spent a week at a resort north of Brisbane. We were there at Coral Reef. Went out in glass-bottom boats and saw the corals. Beautiful formations. Australia is a beautiful country. People are very friendly. There's much more that we would like to have seen. Flying time from Melbourne to Los Angeles is 18 hours with 2 stopovers, making it approximately 24 hours in all. 2 stops were off to New Zealand and Hawaii. This is 8,000 miles. I have made many other trips to visit the children for sightseeing, but these trips are the most impressive. I could have told you more about these trips, but this could be boring. I'm getting older now. You wonder when I plan on retiring. But as long as I feel good and enjoy working, I think I'll just hang in there for a while. I enjoy medicine too much to give up just yet. I have many good patients, bless their hearts, who want me to keep on taking care of them. I will try to do my best for a while at least. Like all of you, I hope to live in that someday in that beautiful land that is fairer than day. There we'll all have different work than we've had here. I'm sure I will. There will be no need of doctors there. In closing, I wish to say that I am not sorry I came to Withee. Evelyn and I enjoyed living and raising our children here. It has been a very friendly community, and you have been good to us. We have had no regrets. I thank you one and all. And I'm sure if Evelyn were alive, she would say the same. God bless you all.